Hello all, welcome back to my channel where we will be discussing the new trends in tech and AI. Today we will be discussing about the newly launched Gemma model by Google. So why is it path-breaking? The reason being the weights are open source and thus you can build commercial applications on top of that one. So let's get into a deep dive of what is Gemma and how is it different from the previously launched Gemini model. Gemma is Google's newest addition to their AI family. So it is offered in primarily two sizes, Gemma 2B and Gemma 7B, and these models are built on the same cutting edge technology that is used for Google's Gemini models. But the difference being this is much more performant. These models are tailored for easier access and used by developers. Google claims that Gemma models can outperform significantly larger models on key benchmarks. So we have a model which is not only lightweight, but it offers the best performance for its size. Just for comparison, with Meta's Llama 2 7B, Gemma has shown superiority in areas like reasoning, max, and even Python code generation. Google also says that Gemma is responsible by design. This means after going through rigorous safety standards, it can filter out sensitive data and it has been fine tuned with human feedback to make sure that AI always behaves responsibly. So let's get into a deep dive of how Gemma works. So we are here at the Gemma documentation page. So to get started, you would need to go to kaggle.com and create an account. So I already have an account. So that is not an issue for me. But if you don't have an account, you can log in with Google or probably sign up. And then after that, you would need to go to settings and you would be able to like create a new API token. So I have already created. But since you have not created, you can click here and get started. Once you got the token, so it would generate a .json file in your system. So if you open it, you would be seeing something like this. You would be getting username and key. You would need to copy these and keep it with yourself because we'll be using this in the Google Colab notebook. So this is a simple Colab notebook on how to get started with Gemma. So we'll be using Keras NLP for loading the Gemma model. So before we get started, what we need to make sure is you are connected to the T4 runtime GPU. So you can click on runtime and you can click on change runtime. By default, it will be CPU. Make sure you click on T4 GPU and select it because unless and until you run it on a GPU, you will not be able to run the model Gemma, which is quite big enough. So we'll save it and we'll come down. We will need to set up the username and key we obtained from the previous section and we will install all the required dependencies of Keras and Keras NLP. And you need to set the Keras backend. So you can set it as JAX or TensorFlow or Torch. So we are just using the default option, which is JAX. So we are loading the Gemma model here. So it would take a little bit of a time. And once it is loaded, you can actually get a summary of the model. So here, as you can see, it has almost 2.5 billion parameters and the size is almost 9.34 GB, which is quite big enough. So that is the reason like we would want to run it on a GPU. So now you can click on this section. So what this would do is we are asking it to generate content related to this question that we are posing, what is the meaning of life. So it would be able to generate the content. So it would take a little bit of time the first time, but if you do it again, right, so the next time it would be faster because we if you use JAX or TensorFlow runtime, so second time you run it, it would be a little bit faster. So you can even do send content in batches as well instead of sending them one by one. So this is just a simple example. Next, what we will do is we'll see how we can fine tune our Gemma model for a specific use case. So this is a simple notebook on how to get started with fine tuning Gemma for your specific use case. So as usual, before you start with, you need to set up the runtime and you need to set up your username and key and install the required dependencies. After that, we'll be downloading a dataset called as Databricks Dolly 15K. This dataset helps us in building and fine tuning our model, and how does it perform better than the regular output. We'll understand it more as we go forward. So we are going to make it in a format which can be used for fine tuning our model. Once that is done, we'll load the model, and once the model is loaded, you can just ask it a simple question such as what should I do on a trip to Europe, right? So it would give a response something like this: take a trip to Europe, and it is only just giving this answer, right? So it is not actually telling me what should I do in Europe. And similarly, if I ask it to explain the concept of photosynthesis to me, right, just like a small child would understand, something like an LA5. So it would not be able to tell it. It actually tells in complex way. So we would need to fine tune it to make it perform better. So that is what we'll be doing it. So we'll be using LoRa fine tuning. So if you are interested in knowing what is LoRa, just mention it in comments and I'll create a tutorial around it. So from the data set that we have created before, right? So we'll be using that data set and we'll be using training with that. So these are all the instructions that you need to keep to start training your model. So it would take a little bit of time. So it took around like some 20 minutes for me. So once that is done, so you can ask the same question that you have asked previously. What should I do on a trip to Europe? So now it actually tells me a perfect answer. So it says that you can do a lot of things. You can go to Paris and do blah blah blah, so many things, right? So this is much better than the previous one. It is just saying me go to Europe, right? Similarly, when I ask it to explain photosynthesis just like a child can understand, now it actually tells me that plants use this and all. So this answer is comparatively much simpler compared to the one that is present before. The way it is able to understand the instruction that I am passing, and it is able to give an output based on that. So that is why the fine tuning helped, because we have given it an instruction data set and asked it to learn from it, and now it is able to follow the instructions and give output on top of that one. So that's it for today's video. Tell me in comments how are you going to use Gemma model for your commercial applications. And for more such technical deep dives, please do make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay curious.